Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Ryan Got the Bread podcast, which I hate the name, but I digress. I have some special people here. The first podcast in the new studio, which took forever and built in the house. I actually have the loan officer who did my loan for this house that were in this awesome studio. And I also have a really cool real estate agent who I have to find out how long you've been in the game, but we're going to find out her superhero origin story and all that on the Ryan Got the Bread podcast. So to my right, I have Drew Thompson with Cross Country Mortgage.
What's going on, man?
What's going on? How are you?
Hey, listen, living the dream.
We've had a fun conversation. I hope we keep it real as we actually start recording.
Yeah.
And then to Drew's right is Candace Dennis. And
Hello.
she is a real estate agent as well.
I am.
And,
Happy to be here.
you know, we're experiencing a crazy time. I mean, I feel like it's cliche to say that now, but a lot of people that aren't buying a house right now or selling a house don't know that it's so crazy. So I want to talk about the state of the market. Today is January 26th, and the Fed pump faked again. And they said they were going to raise rates. And then they said previously they said they were going to raise rates like 8 times.
Eight times, yeah.
And then it came to time to raise the rate. And they said, we're going to do it soon, though.
Mm-hmm.
So we have another, when do they meet again? I'm not sure, but we have a little bit of time. Drew, what are you seeing as far as rates right now for,
Rates are up, man. Kind of, what I was telling my clients last year, they were like, oh, I'm going to wait until next year to buy. The rates are up now and it happened almost overnight.
As soon as that announcement came, right?
As soon as that announcement came, we went from offering, I'll give you, for instance, a borrower with a 620 credit score on an FHA was getting a 3.25, on Monday. The next day, 4.5, almost immediately par for a borrower with the same credit score.
That's crazy.
It was that we had like 3 pricing adjustments in a day's time. So it's been definitely I won't say a scary time because right now, again, for a borrower that's got a 740 credit score on a conventional loan, you're still going to get a 3.625 as a par rate for the day. But again, it's still at a historical low. But if you had purchased your house last year, you would have been in a totally different scenario. You could have got a 2.875 and saved yourself a ton of money in interest.
Well, if people don't know, well, first of all, rates. What were the rates in 1940, Aaron? Can you actually look that up? But while he's looking that up, it is, like you were saying, historically low. But at the same time, housing prices from the last 3 years, the median home price has gone from, oh Lord, let me not quote it wrong. I think it's gone from 250,000 to 350,000. I'm not sure of the exact time frame, but it's basically most of it came from the COVID market. So if you waited 1 year to buy your house, you're going to pay a lot more for the house in general and the interest rate.
Absolutely. And I mean, right now, again, they raised all of the loan limits as well, from 2021 to 2022. So I mean, the concept of the market's going to crash. I want to get a super cheap house. They just raised the bar for money, for these properties. So you're not going to get that drop that you're expecting if you're waiting on the market to get a $300,000 house for $150. It's not coming anytime soon. And it's just going to be more expensive because the rates aren't going to go any lower right now.
Yeah, I think the idea, we're all millennials here, right? Okay, so we all experienced the 2008 crash.
Mm-hmm.
So all of us have PTSD with the economy crashing and not being able to get a job and everything was messed up and the stock market was bad. And so we're like, when's the next crash? And so when COVID first hit, I thought it was going to crash. I wonder if I have some recordings from the other podcast talking about that, but I'm like, man, this is going to crash. And now I don't think that's the case, because obviously this market has maintained for 2 years of being crazy already. And my thesis is, and I wonder what you think, Candace, is that, and we talked about this on the live, but the value of your home is up because the intrinsic value of homes is up, right? Because you're working from home, like people are spending more time at home. They went through homeschooling with their kids, and they're like, dang, I need more space because little Johnny is in the room being all loud on Zoom, and then I'm working, in the next room, and I can't concentrate. I don't have a home office. It's weird sitting like in your kitchen and everybody's walking around you. So you need more space. Like, you're valuing your home more. And I think that increases whatever the bottom price for housing is, right? So maybe it's a little high now, but if the bottom was down here, it's now up here. You know what I mean? I don't think we're ever going back to normal as far as housing prices or this increase, because I was watching Kevin O'Leary was talking about this, but about 50% of people are saying they would quit their job rather than go back to work in person full time. So that's never, I don't think that's going to change. Yeah. So I guess, Candace, how are you seeing that pan out with your clients and in the market and everything, as far as, the competitiveness of the market and what you're telling people? What's your advice, when you do a consultation with somebody saying, hey, I want to buy a house?
On one end, you got to have the conversation where, because I work with a lot of first-time home buyers. So a lot of clients, they call and they're just excited to get a loan. They don't care how much they're approved for. They're just like, Candace, I got me a pre-approval and I'm ready to move. And you kind of have to have that come to Jesus talk where you're like, okay, well, I want you to know, this is not HGTV. So I'm not just going to show you 3 homes and you're going to pick your favorite one and that's just going to be it. And it's also going to be you're going to give me your criteria, but there's going to be some adjustments. So you're there's going to be some give and take somewhere. You'll have I was telling you guys earlier, I had a consultation with a young lady who literally told me for her first house, she wanted an outdoor kitchen. And I was like, I can find you a house that has the space for an outdoor kitchen. And then we'll build one after that. So, I mean, I guess to answer your question, I definitely agree with what you're saying, as far as home values and how the bar has just been permanently raised. My first home, I'm not going to lie, I paid $85,000 for that thing. My next door neighbor just sold their house for $165,000 or something like that. So we're talking almost double of what, and I bought my first house in 2017. So in just less than 5 years, I could, and I just feel like those houses are you're never gonna find another house in the condition. I mean, it was brand new, it was a flip. So recently renovated, everything was brand new in there, and I paid $85,000. We're not going to see anything like that again.
I think so. If anybody actually follows me, I basically haven't been creating content, right? Because a lot of you work with first-time home buyers. A big passion of mine is educating people who did not get the proper financial education about real estate and why it's important to own real estate and why it's life-changing, right? That equity that you gained in your property, it's $50,000. I mean, most people don't make that in a year. That's the median salary. So in 4 years, you just you make another person's income. And I'm so frustrated, concerned, and I don't know what the solutions are. And maybe this is what I want to talk to you guys about, is the first time home buyer coming up, the new people coming up are coming into a space much worse, right? Because they can't buy that house at $80,000. So the goalpost is moving, and I don't know what to do about that. I think people are getting kind of screwed. The opportunity, the best thing about real estate is that years in 2017, you could have done FHA loan for that property, 3.5% down. Even in New Jersey, we had the Home Seeker program. You could have bought that house with no cash out of your pocket, right? So anybody could do it. Now, when I have these consultations with people, I'm like, hey, you're going to need like 25 grand to be able to get in the game or buy something because, you know, the FHA loan is still out there, but it's tough to get stuff accepted. And now if you want an outdoor kitchen, you're going to have to take what's is left. So I wonder what your guys' perspective on like the rich are getting richer and the poor are getting poorer is basically what's happening. And like, what are you telling people that are in those tough situations? Like, do you have any profound advice? Or because I've been thinking about it, I'm like, and here's the thing: save money.
That's
wow.
Yeah.
Move back home with your parents and save.
Right.
Again, there's nothing really profound to really say. I mean, people that are, I'll say this for single folks or young couples that are, again, they're going into this with, hey, this isn't going to be our forever home. You know, we plan to live here for a couple years. You know, I talk to them about the multifamily space, and strictly because, again, if they're not going to be able to get a huge return or anything off the property, that you've got to profit from it somehow. Right. They're not going to be there forever. People that are going to live there forever, I educate them, say, hey, listen, just know that, you know, if you're going to be spending extra money over asking or something like that, just know that it's an investment for the rest of your life because you guys plan to be here forever. So it's not that big of a deal that you're paying a little bit over for this property. But again, for people that aren't in that space, that, you know, that 7 to 10 year, all right, well, just it's really just all in the education of how they're going to spend that next 7 to 10 years of their life in this property. And it's hard, kind of to what you just said. The price is going up, but the income of what everybody is making is not. I mean, yesterday they just made those executive orders in Pennsylvania and New Jersey to bring the minimum wage to $15 an hour. Right. You know, but even still at $15 an hour, you can qualify for a house, but you got to find a house for that amount.
That's the problem. The median wage is not increasing at the rate that the home prices are increasing. So essentially, like, people that could buy houses are no longer able to buy houses.
Exactly. Well, and I won't say that. They can buy houses.
You're
the
right,
houses that they can buy, they don't want.
Oh,
that's what it is.
Because this is the issue that I'm bumping into.
Oh, yeah.
Also,
just keeping it real.
I see Candace's face because and I guess this is where the education needs to go, is the expectations. But I already know what you're about to say. People look at me crazy when I'm like, you're going to have to like reduce your expectations a lot. But then they don't think it's worth it. So like, how's that conversation going with clients? Like, are you getting through to people? Or like, I think this is like the sales part of being an agent, is like really being able to explain this in a way where they get it.
I'm going to be honest. I feel like, me personally, I take the sales part out of it. And I'm like, when I have these conversations, I don't want to be Candace, your agent. I want to be like Candace, your big sister or your cousin or somebody who's been where you're trying to go.
Like a consultant, almost like a professional consultant too.
Right. Because I feel like I said, I work with first-time home buyers. So where they're trying to go was me just a few years ago. And that home, $85,000 house, I mean, it did what it was supposed to do. The space was what it needed to be and everything, but I knew that was not forever for me. It was good enough for what I needed it to be, and it was a starter home. A lot of first-time home buyers, they are excited to just look at homes and just shop. HGTV kind of like fogs everybody's, perception of everything. And I find myself constantly having to remind everyone, you're not going to be here forever. You're not going to be here forever. So find something that is going to make you happy now. And then the other thing is, these homes that we're going to see, oh my gosh, these homes that we're going to see, you're not going to walk in and just, oh my God, I feel like this is home. You haven't made it home yet. So find a house that has potential to do what it needs to do and to fit you and your family. And then years down the line, prayerfully, I'm still be around here, and I'll help you sell this joint, and then we'll go find what you really need.
Right.
But I mean, that's basically what it comes down to, having that reminder, like, this is not your forever home. And I just talk to them like we're friends. I'm like, I've been there.
What's your success rate on convincing people?
I would say out of every 15 buyers, I'll have one that like drops out completely and says, I'm just going to go back to renting because this is just too difficult, blah, blah, blah. But for the most part, most of them come around. Now, some takes longer than others. I had one client, I showed him houses for almost a year. He almost got fired like 3 times. I'm not going to lie. I almost had to cut him loose, but everybody has their process. It takes them, their time. And in this market, I feel like it's kind of like it's part of our job at this point. If we want to be part of the 10% of agents that actually make it, we got to, stick it out.
So how many houses do you think you're showing? And then how many offers are you putting in with each client before they're actually getting it accepted, you think?
Okay. Now, for the average client that isn't super picky and actually listens and,
on average,
all of that, I would say probably on the high side, I'm showing at least like 15 homes.
Okay, that's not a big amount.
Yeah, somewhere between like 15 and 20. I would say out of those, I might put in like 5 offers or something like that. And then hopefully, but that also means that there are like 10 or 15 homes that I showed that that they don't want. And then that one will show up.
So that's another thing for people is you might have to get your 5th choice.
Yeah.
Are they ready to do that?
And that's the other thing.
It's like, because, I feel like I have these conversations, but I like your approach to it because I kind of approach it more in an analytical way where I'm like, look, you're not going to stay in this house forever. You're going to pay down the equity. You're going to, the value of the house is probably going to go up. So if you're spending 80 on it now in like your situation, and when you're ready to move, you'll have paid it down for 4 years. So maybe you pay $10,000 down. So you owe 70. And then the value of the house, if it's worth 160, shoot, now you just take that down payment and get the house that you really wanted. You know what I mean? But I find that, not everybody thinks so analytical to that. Right. And there's a lot of emotions and like, do I really want to live? There's a lot going on when you're buying a house. So I think it's like hard to get through to people sometimes as far as like, looking at it in a more objective way. So that's been my big challenge is like, how do I articulate, that this isn't forever, because I think people have a really romantic, especially first time home buyers who are probably a little less sophisticated and who have less financial education are approaching this like in a dreamy sense. They're watching HGTV. They want to get all the things. They want the backyard kitchen and all that. And it's like, this is not how this works really, I think that's tough.
Like you said, it's kind of just in showing them, you got to show them the math. You got to show them the numbers, and if they see, all right, listen, there's been appreciation in the market for houses, at least 11% each year, the last 2 years. This is what your appreciation is going to be, plus the money that you're going to be paying down on this property. 5 years, you're going to have $60,000 in this property to put down on the place that you really, really want and love.
Right.
But for right now, rather than continue to rent and pay somebody else and have them build equity, build in a savings account for yourself with your house, and just continue to do that until you're in a position to buy something bigger or the market slows down and there's a little more options out for you.
That concept of equity is really important for people to understand because if you could start understanding like having equity in an asset, I feel like that really helps change the thinking about it, but sometimes it's hard to see. I'm getting old, like I'm getting like jaded. I'm negative. Candace over here being all positive. I'm gonna be your sister. I'm like, oh man, here we go. Like it's funny. I'm working with this couple and I guess I'm so jaded, right? Because we did a virtual tour because one of them lives in New York. And so but you can't get a good sense of a property through video.
You can't.
So they want to put an offer on the property. And in the back of my mind, I'm like, absolutely not until you see this property. Because the last thing I want to do is get under contract and get into it. And then I get that phone call. It's past 10 o'clock. It might be 11 p.m. Like, Ryan, and they give you the sad voice. Ryan, I just don't know about this.
Mm-hmm. And they be the ones.
No!
Blind offers.
So in my mind, I'm thinking all these negative scenarios, but I think it's just because I've been around and I've had these problems happen that before these things happen to me or happen to clients, I wouldn't think about them. But so it's funny, the dynamic here, because I see your posts. I'm like, you're so positive. I'll be feeling so bad. I'm like, oh man, what has happened to me? I'm becoming an old grumpy guy about this.
But I think part of that, again, is your passion for getting the educational side of it. And again, if you don't see the value in something, again, you can't sell something you don't see value in. So, you know, if it's not there, again, it's hard to see the forest through the trees in that instance because you're passionate about it. You know, that's not your age showing. It's your passion coming through. And again, like you said, you just don't know how to navigate through that. How do you have that conversation?
Yeah, I don't know. There's something going on with me though, because I took a protein shake and my protein's got caffeine in it, and I was up all night. My mind is racing, and I was thinking about my clients, and I thought about everything that could go wrong. Why am I doing that? Candace, do you do that? Do you get like, you wake up in the middle of the night like, what about the title?
Like, I'm not gonna lie. Sometimes I really do. Like, yeah.
Like,
It'd be like that.
I
had a conversation with an agent this morning. I got a conditional from an underwriter at like 1 o'clock in the morning. So I saw it come through, put my phone down. Let me see what it is. So then I'm up
weird condition approved. They're like, oh no.
Now I'm up at 2:30 in the morning combing through the file. Like, that's wrong. Nope.
Oh.
Let me email my processor. Hey, why is this like this at 3 o'clock in the morning? Knowing that she's gonna look at it in the morning like, why was he messaging me at 3 a.m.?
I want to talk about actually, Drew, I don't know. Non-QM loans.
Okay.
I don't know much about them except for the stuff that I'm trying to do with all my properties. So I'm basically trying to consolidate all my rental properties into one loan, which is a non-QM product. What does QM stand for?
Quality mortgage.
Quality mortgage, but basically there's a government rules.
Yeah, so it's again
so that they could sell the mortgage, right?
Exactly. So again, traditional mortgages are considered quality mortgages. So your FHAs, your VAs, all those are all considered quality, because they fit the traditional guideline of a 30-year traditional mortgage. Anything outside of that guide is going to be non-QM. You're going to find products in the non-QM space that are going to, fit your situation. So, giving you a little backstory, Ryan, has a couple rental properties. So he's looking to do what is called a blanket loan right now. Blanket loan will allow you to refinance or purchase multiple investment properties and under one blanket loan with one interest rate. So you're not paying 8 different mortgages on all your properties. It helps you consolidate, helps keep all your portfolio in one place, and it gets you a pretty decent interest rate across the board. And you're not paying 8% on this one or 6% on this one. And, if you're an investor out there that, has, say 10 properties or 8 properties and you looking to pick up another one, you can refinance that other one into the blanket and, keep moving forward.
And it's a pain in the ass to, all my mortgages are like with different companies, and like I'll get an email or a letter and they don't even have, like I'm like, what property is this? They'll call you and they just assume, and I'm like, I don't know what property you're talking. Like and one of my loans just got sold, and it's like, let's put this all under one thing. Plus my thinking is, because I saw the interest rate thing, I said, let me refinance all this stuff. Because one of my properties is still a FHA because I was house hacking. Because like Candace, I was living in a townhouse, like the cheapest house in West Hampton where we're at. that neighborhood was the cheapest property that I could find at the time, and now it's worth more money. And then I upgraded to this house, and so it just I could refinance all my properties at the same time, lock in a low rate, pull out some of the money, and now I'll have money to buy more properties with.
Mhm.
But the funny thing about non-QM that I'm learning, and I'm starting to love this, is less documentation. Because when we did the loan for this house, you guys were driving me crazy. And I just feel like you get treated differently from like, just because like, because we're talking, well, my personal property can't get added into the blanket, but it was like close to $1 million. So the level of attention you get is a little bit better,
a little bit different and everything like that.
You doing a regular mortgage, so like, whatever.
Yeah, and they're not looking at your income when you're doing these non-QM loans either. They're looking at the income that's coming off the property. So they're doing a 1-to-1 ratio based off of, how much is this loan going to cost versus how much income these properties are going to bring in for the year. As long as you're at a 1-to-1 ratio with that and your credit score is halfway decent, they're going to be like, all right, we'll approve this loan, and you're not providing any tax returns, W-2s.
Oh, Lord. That's why I wanted to talk about this, right? Because I think this is the next thing coming up, because you guys heard about the Great Resignation where all these people are quitting their jobs, right? Mm-hmm. And I keep wondering, like, what are those people doing, right? Like, where'd they go? But I think part of this is this whole gig economy and everyone's being an entrepreneur and their own boss, right? So, like, they're driving Uber, they're doing Instacart, they got a little side business, so they don't have income on paper. And I think the next thing is those people who are doing pretty well, who have quit their jobs, I think they're going to have to be looking at alternative types of loans. And I don't think there's a lot of education. I don't really know a lot about the space, but I think that's like something that's going to be coming up. Yeah, I don't know if you guys have, but like even like Candace, like your income now, right? Like as an agent is, like, do you take the tax write-offs? Because you could write off your income, not pay taxes, really, or
right.
But then if you want to buy a house, it's really difficult.
Mm-hmm. It's crazy. I was actually talking about this with a friend of mine who's another agent, and she's looking to buy a house, and she's like, well, like, do I pay the taxes or do I not write things off and I go get like a non-QM loan, but then I end up putting all the money down because the down payment's a lot bigger. Or more. So either way you're paying, so it's kind of like, well, which one's going to be the bigger deal, like the better deal?
And I think I've been doing it backwards. I think I've actually been doing a bad job because I've been paying the taxes. Like I just do my TurboTax, I don't take any write-offs. I just eat it and I'll pay like stupid money, and I don't need to, but I do it so I could get mortgages. But then now I'm getting experience with this non-QM. I'm like, why don't I just do that? I'd rather give the money to the loan than the government. Like, why am I?
Because you're gonna have it in equity,
right?
And then you can still write off the interest.
Well, why don't you tell me this, man?
What's going on? I was going to say, this sounds good. Like, I'm thinking about myself. Like, well, hold up.
Why? Yeah, because I thought I was being smart. Because I always tell self-employed people, pay the taxes so that you can get a car. You can you exist in the financial world with the banks. But now I'm like, there's these other products. Like,
well, it's funny. So the non-QM space damn near went away when COVID hit.
Oh yeah, because when we were doing our flips, our hard money, all the hard money disappeared. We had to go. Aaron knows about that. Aaron Otis is my business partner over here. He's actually switching the cameras and producing, and he looks really bored. But we lost our financing on a flip. On both of them? Was it both? It was both. We were buying two properties, and the one hard money place was like, the loan was approved. We were like 3 to 5 days from closing, and they were just like, we're not doing the loan anymore. Yeah. What? So we had to scramble, find a new company, blah blah blah. But maybe that's why we weren't doing the non-QM.
So I think we talked about this when last time I was on your podcast. There was a time right when the pandemic hit, non-QM went away. People mortgage companies were raising their interest rate requirement, not interest rate, credit score requirements.
Right.
So it was kind of like a catch-22. There was a moment where, again, a bunch of our loans fell out. One, because they didn't qualify anymore because again, we didn't have a program for them.
Right.
And then, I mean, there was then an influx of business to me because I was still writing loans at 580 credit scores, and all the rest, a lot of the rest of the lenders out there were like, oh no, we need a 640. So there was a period of time that they were just there. It wasn't good for origination.
That's when I thought it was going to crash.
Yeah,
I was just about to say that.
Right? Because Candace, did you get these emails from the Realtor Association? Like, for a couple of weeks, we couldn't show houses.
Yeah.
At all. So I'm like, well, that's going to be a problem,
I'm like, I'm about to get one of those, what is it, the PPP loans?
Yo, I'm mad. I should have done that.
Me, I was about to cash out, okay?
Listen,
I should have.
That's a big portion of I quit my job thing too.
Yes.
That's a good portion of I quit my
unemployment and
job.
stuff.
Unemployment and PPP was huge, and people were just like, I'm gonna start my own business. They got the seed money and ran with it.
I'm so upset about that. I should have got whatever the maximum amount was. I should have applied for all of it.
Yeah,
I would have just bought properties.
Again, at least
whatever the rate was, I would have made more than the rate.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they could have gave me $1 million. I would have just bought stuff.
Yeah.
I would have
gone to a good cause.
At least you're legitimate.
I could make it legit.
Running it up.
IRS.
Meanwhile, I'm not going to lie. Last year, I had a client that was like, yeah, I'm saving my money. I'm going to buy a house. I'm like, okay, but we just had a conversation. You told me it was difficult to save, and I don't got to pay rent, so that money is going to savings. And I'm like, oh my gosh.
Don't get me triggered. I have a rental property that's like that they haven't paid for at least a year.
What?
And you can't in New Jersey. Okay. So let me tell a story. Well, there's not much story to it. Basically, I have a tenant, and she. I got it. So I have an attorney who does my evictions. So I just send it to him, and I don't worry about it. And I got the judgment. And then 2 weeks later, you have to send it to the sheriff. The sheriff puts it on the schedule to lock the person out. 2 days before the lockout, she calls NJDCA, which is, I guess, New Jersey Housing something. And the judgment got rescinded.
Bing bang.
Good timing.
Perfect.
So, I asked the attorney, I'm like, so we can't do anything? And they're like, oh, after January 1st, we can apply because then it's expired now. So it takes months to get the judgment and then to get the lockout. So I had to do it all over again. Meanwhile, she wants all these repairs done. She's always complaining about stuff. But you got to fix the property, pay the mortgage, and they don't have to pay nothing.
Mm-hmm.
So that leads me to the fact that I don't invest in the Northeast anymore because the laws are stupid. Why would I do that? Because I have property in Texas, and they don't play that, right? That's not a risk that you have in certain other states and localities. So that's my advice for people. And the entry price in the South, Texas, Florida, Nevada, what else do I like? Arizona. I think those places have a lot more potential, especially if you want to get into investing like a duplex here. What's a duplex cost?
I just closed
minimum
2 weeks ago. That was $450.
$450.
2 family. North
and
Jersey.
They got roaches. and they got linoleum floors.
This one was nice, but I mean,
at $350. It's going to be jacked up. The minimum price, I'm saying the minimum entry price is dusty.
Yeah.
And then, because a lot of people reach out to me. I'm like, get a multifamily. But I'm starting to feel like it's not realistic. Or it is realistic, but people don't want to do it. You don't want to live in that dusty duplex for a year or two until you move out.
Mm-hmm.
But
they either don't want to live in the dusty duplex, or they don't want to buy where the duplex that looks halfway is.
Right.
I think I was just telling you, I had a client that, they want to buy a duplex, but they're like, I don't want to live in the hood. But
get more money.
You got to, yeah, exactly. you got to go somewhere else, then, but they don't want to spend that kind of money, so it gets convoluted.
That's where it's hard, because house hacking, where you buy the property, live in it, rent out the other unit, is the best way to get started, in my opinion. But you gotta the give and takes. Like you're not gonna have a backyard kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, you're gonna have to rough it.
Yeah, and that's why, again, I recommend it a lot for, again, new couples that are just, again, they're just starting out and they're looking to make some type of financial move, or somebody that's single. If you're living in an apartment now, living in a duplex for a year, until you can.
It's only a year.
It's only a year. You've lived in an apartment before. It's not going to kill you, and at least now you're building some equity for yourself and putting yourself in a position to, buy something else that you really want and have it paid for by the property that you already have.
Exactly.
So it's
exactly
rough space, man.
everybody want to be in real estate, but everybody don't want to be in real estate.
I mean, that's what it is.
How Kevin Hart said it, everybody want to be famous, don't want to do the work.
Yeah. So, Candace, you said something interesting as far as when we couldn't show houses and all that. And how long have you been licensed?
I've been licensed. This is about to be year 5.
Oh, okay. So pretty long then. Mm-hmm. Were you full-time the whole time?
No. So the first 2 years, I was still working full-time for another job. I was a loan processor.
Oh,
so
okay.
I did that for a little bit and then got my license, still kept doing both. And then after a while, I was like, yeah, this is ghetto.
The loan like the hardest job. Like I could never.
And then I was like showing houses on my lunch break, but like not exactly eating. And then showing houses when I got off work and the weekends, and
the anxiety of
young for that. I need life.
Right? Wait, so that's very well. Give me your superhero origin story. Now is the time. Where are you from? All that stuff.
I told you it's not super.
No, you're a superhero.
I'm from South Jersey. Like born, raised, always been here. Left for Baltimore for a year for college, came right back. Like this is, my space.
Mm-hmm.
I was a loan processor. Started that in 2015 or something like that.
Did you go to college?
I did. Mm-hmm.
Where'd you go?
I got my bachelor's in 2015 too. That was at Rutgers. Went to Rutgers.
When you went to college, what was your plan?
Oh, man. Definitely not real estate.
I'm doing a deep dive.
I know. I'm like thinking back to everything I wanted to do. I actually wanted to be an attorney.
Oh,
I'm not going to lie. Rutgers had this business/law kind of program where it was almost like you're getting both degrees at the same time.
Oh, that sounds like a good idea.
And it would only take 5 years versus the normal, I think it's 8. So that was my original plan. But then I started taking the business classes, and I took one law class and I was like, no. Thinking back now, I'm like, I should have stuck it out, but I just decided to stick with business. So I got my bachelor's in business management and then got my master's online.
Oh, you got a master's.
So,
okay.
Yeah.
Stun on him.
And then I ended up being an agent. And then I ended up being an agent where you don't need any of that. I'm paying the loans though.
Hey.
Oh no, the student loan debt.
Oh man. The good thing is grad school is obviously more expensive than undergrad, but since I did that one online, that one's actually cheaper than undergrad. So I don't owe as much as I would have.
That's good.
When were you like, I'm gonna be a realtor?
When I bought my house, my first house.
Okay.
Yeah, it was crazy because I was already a processor for a couple years, and so in my head, that's why I love when processors and junior underwriters and stuff be like, yeah, I know the process and blah blah, but real estate and mortgage, they overlap a little bit, but they're still different, and that's why I let you guys do your jobs. But I kind of went into it feeling like I knew more than I actually did, and I remember my agent telling me she was dope, but she was like, you're one of those clients that know a little bit too much. Because I started asking her questions that like she didn't know the answer to. And then I would be like, it's fine. I'll find out at work tomorrow. And then I thought about it. I'm like, I'm doing too much. But after I got my house, like after closing and everything, I was the first of like my friends group and like, cousins and stuff my age that like bought a house. And then the narrative changed to, oh my God, Candace is rich. And in my head, Candace just bought an $85,000 house and the mortgage is only $700 a month. So I'm really not rich, guys. But to them, it was like such a big thing. And I'll never forget, one of my friends was like, I thought you had to be like a doctor or something to buy a house. And when she said that to me, it kind of made me think about like what the mindset of our community really is concerning homeownership. And then I talked to my agent and she's like, I feel like you would be great at this. She told me where she went to real estate school. And like months later, I had applied and went. And yeah,
well,
I've just been rolling.
It's so similar. That's exactly the stuff I've been trying to fight, is like that idea. It's like you have to be rich or like special or something, like accomplished to be able to buy a house. Like it should be accessible to everybody. You know what I mean? And it was / kind of still is, but that's why the market. But what do you think set you apart in thinking to buy a house when your peer group was not doing that?
The biggest thing, and my friends made fun of me for it, but then it turned around and became like a flex a little bit. Before I bought my house, I still lived at home with my parents. And they all had like apartments and stuff like that. And so they would always tell me like, you don't have real bills. Like, you're not a real adult. You don't have real bills. But me not having those real bills, I mean, I had a car note and, everything else you have other than the rent or a mortgage. But that's what like had me be able to save. Saving like came easily. So not to mention we were paying for the house and the wedding at the same time. I got married a month after I bought my house. So we were able to like save for both. And people were looking at us like, yeah, but y'all live at home. Like, you still got to tell your dad where you going. And I mean, yeah, but so it paid off. Yeah, like, but it paid off. And so now like, even like anybody, if you call me and you tell me you want to buy a house and you're still living at home and I don't know if I should buy or rent. I don't know either, sis. We about to talk about it. But what I will tell you is stay at home with your mom if she's not putting you out.
Come on now.
Stay home and save your money, because I feel like that is what got me. Like I'm thankful that my parents didn't put me out when I was 18. One of those like, you're grown now, so go. That wasn't them.
Did they make it easy for you to stay? Or were you beefing a little bit? Were you getting that pressure to get out?
I didn't get that pressure to get out, to be honest with you. Well, one, not sure if you guys know this, I lost my mom when I was 19. So it was just me, my sisters, and my dad in the home. And so I felt like that kind of made us all like closer to where we didn't actually want to leave. But then like I got engaged, and in my head, I'm like, I ain't gonna move him here. So that means I gotta go, I gotta go. So that was kind of like the push for me, the engagement and the wedding and all of that. I can't say that if I was married, I would still be at home. But what I will say is my sisters are still home and they're, saving, and they plan on buying, at some point in the future. But they're not being pushed out if they don't have to be. You know what I mean? Like, yeah.
I'm glad you said that, because within the community, that is I see memes and stuff about that all the time. Like, you're putting your kids out too soon, and then, it's not setting them up to be like financially successful. And I always wonder what like the best strategy is with that, because there's benefits of like having to make it on your own, but there's definitely financial benefits of not having to pay rent.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's balance, I feel like, especially with now being a mom now. Like my son's only one, but but I feel like there's balance, because I see in me where my dad, like, I bought my own car, like my first car. Like I didn't, I wasn't one of those that, on your 16th birthday, you get a brand new car, and that wasn't me. So I feel like I was privileged in a sense where I wasn't pushed out to move, but I was still held responsible. Like I still had my own, bills and all of that I had to take care of. So there was still like a sense of responsibility. I wasn't exactly spoon fed, I guess, is what I say.
Yeah, I think that's the thing, is like the mentality, right? Like if you're saving money and you like have intention, then it would make sense, to stay at home because you have an objective. And then the counter argument to that is like people could get soft and not do nothing and then just stay in the nest forever. So I think that's an interesting conversation, because me, like, well, I joined the military like out of high school. So like, and I worked a lot. Like I had like 3 jobs at one point. I went to night school for my last year of high school so that I could work. So I would work during the day, and then I really didn't even go to the night school. Like I went like 3 times and graduated. Like it was a whole crazy situation with that. But, I've always been like super trying to be independent, but I think obviously the military allows you to do that. But I wonder what would have happened if I had stayed and went to college first, so I was thinking about that.
I mean, I kind of advise, again, parents that have kids and everything like that. Like, listen, like, even if you're going to charge them rent, take that rent money that you really don't need, that you're trying to teach them some responsibility, and put it in the savings account for them. So when it's time for them to leave, and and they have to go somewhere, you can say, all right, listen, you're going to be moving somewhere. Here's some seed money.
Right.
Here's some money for your down payment for your house. This is the money that I've been giving you, and because you've been giving it to me faithfully, I'm giving it back to you.
I think, yeah. I mean, you see a lot of other cultures where it might be strict at home or whatever, but they set their kids up for success going forward. They're paying for the wedding, they're paying for, they're buying them a house, like they're doing all that stuff, but they stay home longer. And then when they're finally ready to move out, they're able to move out on their feet rather than trying to get it out the mud. Like,
absolutely,
it's tough. All these college kids don't have 2 nickels to rub together the whole time. Then you get the debt. It's tough, especially modern times. So like times, well, now with the COVID and like now, I think most kids are staying home because they're not going on campus now, right? Yeah. So they're kind of forced to do that. So like, it's crazy. The world's really changing so much. I don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, it's going to be a wild offshoot, man. Kind of like you said, again, people in other cultures, they use group economics so efficiently, that they can do those things for their families, because it's ingrained in their community and in their culture to do those things. And I don't think it's not become a part of ours yet.
I think there's a problem with it. And there's a reason why it doesn't work. And I've been thinking about this a lot. Because I've been trying to do more joint ventures and stuff, like the podcast studio. I had a joint venture with that. But what is difficult, I think, is that this entrepreneurship thing is so pushed heavy and it's so hot right now. But at least for me, like I've been super independent. I don't want to listen to anybody, blah, blah, blah. But I did 4 years in the Army. You know what I mean? So like I know how to shut up and follow, right? Which you need to listen to people and you need to follow till you're able to lead or till you're able to do, like, go out on your own. So like everybody wants to do a partnership where everyone's equal hierarchy, like it's hard to like align that many people. Like you need someone kind of in charge and other people willing to follow. And so when everybody thinks they know, it's like hard to like put something together because everyone has their own ideas and someone needs to win the tiebreaker. You know what I mean? Like we can't just like all have our own thing, like instead of doing, everyone's doing their own side hustle. If we could all work together under one mission, I think it would be a lot better. It's just an idea that I've been thinking about, but I do think that is a real key issue, is like everybody wants to do their own thing.
Everybody wants to be the chief.
Everybody wants to be the chief, and they think they should be the chief without any experience as the chief.
Right.
The track record.
What's going on? Like you should want to follow behind somebody who knows, and you might question, what their decision making is, but you don't know why they're doing things sometimes, and they're not going to always explain stuff to you, but you got to see why they do it. Like Aaron over here, like I'll be working with him and on some construction stuff at the house, right? And I'll be observing how he's doing something. And I'm like, why are you doing it like that? Right. And it looks dumb to me at first. I'm like, I would just do it this way. But then I'll do it that way. And then I'm like, oh, shoot. Don't do it that way because this happens when you do it that way. Oh, the nail gets stuck. Oh, that's why you take extra time to do, whatever. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So like, but everyone wants to do it that way and then learn why they did it when you could have just done it the way he told you to do it and you wouldn't have had a problem. So, it's just.
It is very hard. And I think, me and you had a conversation, last year, because I was looking to do a ton of things, looking to open a title company and, going to a bunch of different spaces and finding that cohesive unit that is going to be like, listen, I don't know what I'm doing. So I'm going to listen.
Right.
And then I'm going to put my ideas in and do X, Y, and Z so this can work is hard because again, nobody wants to take that back seat because they feel like they're not included.
Mm-hmm. And we don't trust each other enough. Yeah, and, you got to enter stuff in good faith. Like maybe it works, maybe it doesn't, but you can't like be checking behind. You just got to like trust people to do it.
And if we all don't know, let's all learn together and figure out how to move our way forward and find people and pieces outside, like you said, that know what they're doing to move forward the right way, but again, it's hard to find people with that mindset.
The older I get, the more I'm realizing there's a reason why things are done the way they are. And it might look dumb from the outside and you think you're going to reinvent the wheel, but a lot of times you're not going to reinvent the wheel. All right, continue with your origin story though. I feel like there's more there. So you bought the house. You kind of were inspired a little bit by the agent and the process, and you were already kind of around the stuff. How was it starting out? Because I didn't sell a house for like 15 months when I first started, and I didn't know what I was doing.
Oh, I was very similar. I'll put it this way. I was like officially licensed on July 1st, and my first 2 deals closed June 28th. Of the following year. Okay. So we're literally talking almost a whole year before I had closed anything.
And you were working at the time while you were doing it, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it was
because you had to pay the bills.
Oh yeah.
So you couldn't just jump out the window.
My new bills. So I couldn't be one of those, I'm gonna be a full-time agent. No, it wasn't happening.
Right.
I was actually on a team when I started out.
Oh, let's get into that.
I was on a team.
I have opinions about teams.
I have opinions.
Tell me about your team and how they took advantage of you as a new agent.
Oh my gosh. Well,
that deserved a bing bong.
That was the moment, wasn't it?
Bing bong. There we go.
At the time, the team, unless they were a team of 2, I don't quite know, but they were just starting. And so it was kind of introduced as like, you're going to be part of the foundation of something great. And we're going to take over and we're going to get an office and we're going to be on HGTV. And like new agent me, I'm like, all right, like, let's do it. Everything sounded great. Before I was even like fully brought on, all these other girls like started like popping up. And then it became like a team of 2 plus me made 3 became like 7 or 8. And then months later, like people were dropping and then here goes a new person. And which now I'm learning, like now being in it for a little bit and seeing like our retention rate, like not many of us really stick it out.
Oh,
so
don't get me started.
Now I see like how, that could have happened, how so many people were coming and going and everything like that. And don't get me wrong, even now to this day, I have no ill will towards anyone. I don't feel like in our business we can even benefit by having beef with anybody. Because if any of y'all got a listing and I got a buyer, I need you to take my offer.
Come on.
And it's all the same people.
Yeah.
The top 10% does all the business. So
oh yeah. So we all like
real players.
Yeah. You start recognizing names and stuff like that. So I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna go with grace. But for the time I was there, it was great. At least I thought it was.
Because they send you around a lot. Like I see people on teams and they're doing a lot of stuff. I'm like, they're at open house, they're at a listing, they're on this and all that. But I feel like when I talk to them, they're like, yeah, I get $500. I'm like, what?
It's like that.
Why would I do all that? But did you feel like you learned a lot? Like you actually got to do a lot of activity?
Honestly, no.
No.
I'm gonna be honest. Cause I told you I was gonna keep it real while I'm here. You know what I'm saying? I feel like I learned the most in those first 2 deals that I did.
Right.
Only because I messed up quite a bit. And I didn't really have the people that I felt like probably should have been kind of like monitoring me and guiding me through the process. I didn't really have that. So it was almost like I was going like
making it up.
Yeah. And just like referring back to when I bought a house. Okay, so now we're going to do this. Oh, so now I'm going to schedule your home inspection. And then like once the mortgage stuff started, at the time I'm still working in it. So I'm like, oh, you just got approved? All right, cool. So this is what's going to happen next. Like, and it's not because I had somebody telling me like, all right, so now this is what you're going to do. But it was more so like your experience. Like, all right, now I know for a fact that this is what's going to happen next. So honestly, I'm thankful that I had the mortgage background and, you know, the house buying and all of that, because I probably still wouldn't be here. Didn't know what I was doing. But long story short, those 2 deals closed. As you assume, I made next to nothing after everybody took their cuts of everything. And then after those 2 deals closed, they kicked me off.
Oh no, they kicked you?
Yeah.
Bing bong.
We got it.
Yeah.
Because, you know, I've been trying to do a team because I really don't want to interact with clients at all at this point. I want to like kind of teach people, but actually be the person that's actually helping them.
Yeah.
Like how you were saying, no one's telling you anything. Like I would actually go with them, shadow, hey, now you do this. And it was kind of working. I had one person on the team and they were pretty motivated because that's why this happens though. I realize on like the team leader side is like most of these people are gonna be gone in like a month, 2 months. They're gonna be like, why do you think that happens though? I have an opinion, but I want to hear what you have to say first. Like, what's up? Why does everyone want to be a real estate agent?
I feel like
because I know you get all them people hitting you up like, girl, how do I do it? What do I do? And then you're like, oh boy, here we go.
I blame social media. I'm be honest with you. I feel like a lot of agents flex. You know, the cars and bags and shoes, and it kind of makes you look like
you got Burberry shoes on right now. just to point that out. Go to the wide shot.
Oh my gosh. Anyways.
Oh, we can't see them. But that's right.
Good. I like your table. But there's a lot of that going on, and I feel like it makes people think that as soon as you get started, that's what your life is going to look like. It's almost like one of those, like the pyramid schemes, like Herbalife or something like that. If you sell this skinny people tea, you going to be rich. Like
it is in that vein. It really is.
Tea.
I feel like that's how people look at real estate, and that's how they advertise it, and people get sold on it. But I'm be honest with you, real estate is hard. Like for that first year, I would say, I don't know. Like I dug myself in debt, yo.
I need some details because you posted that today about like the difficulties in starting and the fees and part-time.
Oh,
was talking about. But so let's talk about part-time. But first, I want to talk about like the details. Like, what was your impression, and then how was it actually being an agent? And then I want to go to what made you stay in, because mad people drop out.
Yeah. So I would say I'm actually not one of those agents that, like, if you ask them why they got into real estate and they're like, it's because I love home decor. Like, I genuinely felt like people's reactions to me buying a house and feeling like I was rich and all of that, I'm like, y'all need help. And y'all need to get the help from one of y'all.
Yeah.
And so that's why I got into it. And even though it was difficult, for some reason, I felt like even though I didn't have it right, all together at that time, I know how I am. So I'm like, I'll be able to figure this out and I'm going to be good.
Right.
Like the way I kind of operate with certain things, I won't just quit right away. I'm like, let me exhaust all of my resources and get to the very end. And if it ends in failure, at least I can say I tried it and that it wasn't for me. But let me not just fall back just because people are saying you're going to fail. So for me, especially like getting kicked off the team and all of that, and like literally being told like, you're not a good fit for us. Even the brokerage that I just left not too long ago literally told me I would fail without their brand. That's a whole nother thing.
Yeah, but the brands are so irrelevant.
Yeah, like nobody cared that you Candace Dennis from so-and-so. Like half the people wouldn't even ask me what brokerage I'm from. Right. But to constantly have to hear like, oh, you're young, you don't know what you're doing, or, you're young and confused. Like
they're confused, actually.
Yeah.
The old real estate is like one of these old businesses where like even like the association and the MLS, all this stuff is built to like maintain their control of the market. That's why they're scared of Zillow and all that. They want to act so alarmist about it because they have like a stranglehold on something that they really shouldn't, because finding houses is democratized now. Like most of my clients are finding a house on realtor.com. Like I'm usually not the first one sent. I mean, they might get in their email, but realtor.com works better than our MLS system, I think. Mm-hmm. And so like they're trying to hold on to this money bag as long as they can, but they're wrong. Like, like they're still talking about like send postcards and do this and do. I'm like, are you crazy? Like a Facebook ad is like a penny per person.
Right.
Why would I spend like 10 cents per person sending a postcard, which I would throw in the garbage immediately? Like, what are they talking about these days? Like, I feel like the information is so outdated. I can't wait to put them out of business.
I definitely agree with you. And I feel like social media has become everything. Like, soon as I hear like, well, you haven't cold called. You haven't sent any postcards. Like, have you been doing your door knocking? No, ma'am, I haven't, and I ain't going to. Like,
oh my God. That's like the advice that they're giving people. I'm like, no.
I'm like, no, because if you call me and ask me if I want to sell my house, I'm going to bang on you. And
right? Mm-hmm. Don't call me.
Yeah. Like, I can't.
That's crazy. Mm-mm-mm. So you said you like to stick to things and everything. When did you like start to see? Because the thing is, you're part-time. You're like, let me try it. I'll see if I can make this work. When were you like, okay, I'm going to go full-time and really do this?
I felt like I was ready to go full-time before I actually went. Like, okay. I also like fear failure too at the same time.
It's scary not knowing what you're going to make tomorrow.
It's very scary. And there's a couple other things too, because Drew know firsthand, I was buying a house and I couldn't quit that job. You can't quit your job when you buying the house. So the job was there until I got the house. And then after I got the house, I waited a little bit, maybe like 2 weeks or something like that.
I'm out.
It might have been 2. It might have been 3. I don't know, but I was gone after that. But that was a big reason why I waited as long as I did. But prior to that, number one, it got a little bit unmanageable. I felt like the full-time gig, it wasn't what I wanted to do. It wasn't fulfilling. I was miserable, like absolutely hated. I got to a point where Sunday evenings, I could feel my mood shift because I was dreading work on Monday morning.
The worst.
And then I have my husband, who I don't know if y'all know, but is like full-time doing music, YouTube, all the stuff that he's doing. And so I'm getting up and going to work, and this man's still asleep and then texting me good morning at 10:30 in the morning. And I'm like, this is ghetto. I want to be like you.
How about that?
So after a while, I'm like, okay, at some point you just have to take the leap. Like, and after a while, I just did it. Like, I was driving to work listening to that Steve Harvey. Y'all ever listen to that? You know which one I'm talking about?
Yeah, the Steve Harvey morning show.
Yeah, he like goes on this, it gives me like TED Talk vibes, but he's talking about like finally taking the leap and just like jumping and going for whatever you feel like your purpose is. And I got to a point where I was miserable, and I'm like, I know that this is why I'm miserable. So instead of walking around and being miserable and making everybody else around me miserable, let me do what I know I should be doing. And then once you do that, you have to continue running. Like, you can't. You
That's
cannot
the thing.
stop.
When you go full time, it's like, I better do something, you know?
Yep. Because then them bills start piling up, and they don't care about your dreams and your happiness. They want their money.
Absolutely.
Yep.
What is the conversation with your husband sound like? Like, okay, I'm going to quit. I mean, I guess he doesn't have a traditional thing either, so it's probably easier, but sometimes
I feel
that's
like
hard
it was
for people.
easier because he was telling me to leave before I actually did. It was me being in my head.
Oh, he's believing in you. Oh,
it really was me in my head. And like when you get comfortable, like, oh my gosh, getting a check every 2 weeks, like getting money back every year on your taxes. That was another thing. I was like, man, I missed the years where I would get a refund. Like, but leaving all of that, I mean, it's worth it. Like now, because I'm actually happy. I can get up and actually like look forward to working. Some of these houses, I don't feel like getting up and going to them. But for the most part, my job is fulfilling, and I love what I do. So now I'm just like, all right, let me keep the momentum going. Let me keep, making these clients happy, giving them the experience that they expect. And prayerfully, the referral business will do what it needs to do. And that's what it's been doing.
That emotional freedom is everything.
Oh, yeah. When I found myself crying on the way to work, I was like, I felt like I was on a Tyler Perry movie. I was like, this is ghetto. I can't do this. I can't do it.
Man, a job can just be so soul crushing.
Yeah.
I feel like that's my big motivation. Like, look, at least own your house, have some equity, have some flexibility, if you need to sell it. Like, because your job might make you lose it, and if you have something to fall back on, that pressure goes away. You know what I mean? Like, you knew you would be good, like, so when you're leaving, but imagine having nothing. Like, if you quit your job, how am I going to live? And then you're stuck. And I just think that is just... oh, that's a scary feeling.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And that's the other thing with real estate that I feel like a lot of people have to keep in mind, because for me, now me and my husband, like anything could happen with either one of our jobs. But at the end of the day, if we needed to, that little townhouse in Sicklerville is still sitting there. And if I needed to sell it, it's there for me to do it. And that's what I feel like, especially my first time home buyers that want, the glitz and the glam and all of that. Like, that should be what you're thinking about. You know what I'm saying? Especially with everybody wanting to be an Instagram influencer and all of that. Like, you need something to fall back on, something that's actually going to work for you.
So do you rent that property out?
I do.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. That's what's up.
I do.
Like when I look at the difference between the rent and the mortgages, even now with the price is crazy, I'm like, why wouldn't you just buy it?
Oh, yeah.
Like, I just leased out my old townhouse, actually, that I was living in. And I'm like, why are people renting this? The mortgage is $13 and the rent's $18.50. Why would you pay $18.50 when you can pay? I mean, if you got a mortgage now, it might be $1,600, but like,
but it's yours.
Yeah, it's mine. I'm paying down the equity. If I move, I can use it or I can rent it out. It's like, what's going on here?
A lot of people don't want the responsibility.
That is the stupidest argument ever.
That is
I
stupid.
keep seeing that on Facebook.
Oh, I'm telling you, it's stupid.
What if the water heater breaks? I'm like, oh my God, I don't want the responsibility to fix the house.
All that. I get it. I get all of them, man. They don't want the responsibility. I can't afford it. Like, but short of you not having the credit, there's no reason not to buy a house.
It's fear, though.
Huh?
It's fear.
It is fear.
It's fear. And that's that cultural thing that I think affects our community even more, is like, we have a bad relationship with credit in general as a community, and we're scared of, like, I don't even know how else to say it, but like white people stuff. Like, credit and real estate and like all this like
even like stocks and
stocks.
stuff. Like
yeah, and then what kills me though is now like it's getting popular, but I feel like people are learning the wrong things from it. Like that's why I don't really like when I'm hearing people talking about wholesaling or like cryptocurrency, which these things are good to do. Like I'm not saying they're bad to do, but there's this like it's the wrong reason, right? Like you don't get rich quick. Like you get stocks and you build your wealth up over time. You don't buy a stock and tomorrow get rich.
Right.
You don't get into wholesaling with no money and all this stuff and then get rich. You know, like you have to learn stuff. You have to invest. It takes time. And everybody's chasing money rather than like trying to be effective at what they're doing. And that's why I'm concerned. It's better than people just talking about buying stuff, like just buying, you know, consumer goods or whatever. But it's like, you know, we want to invest, not gamble. And then I'm like, it's getting kind of weird with that.
People want the instant gratification.
Like Forex, right? Like trading exchange currency. This is how these scammers do though. Trading currency is a legitimate thing to do. But whatever the heck they're doing with these teams and this and the strategy and this and that, that's where the scam is overlaid over it. Same thing with crypto and all this other stuff. Like I buy Bitcoin and Ethereum and stuff like that, but like I don't know, there's all these weird like scams built on top of it, designed to appeal to someone who is not getting into it for the right reason. Boggles my mind.
But kind of what Candace was saying, social media is a killer, man. Social media will put people onto these things, and then 3 weeks later, they're broke. You know, how many people have you seen, you know, I've got $10,000. I got $10,000 to my Cash App. You know,
the Cash App scams.
You know, because again, people will believe in anything that they see online. You know, so there's a lot of misinformation out there. There's a lot of glitz and glamour stories that people are just like, that's going to be me, and it's going to happen tomorrow if I buy this NFT for $3,000.
I know. I'm. You know, you guys know my social media. Like I'm trying to straddle the fence as far as like everybody's social media is their highlight reel, and everybody's the best, and nothing ever goes wrong. And I always try to like counterbalance that with my own self. Like, you know, like the stocks were down, I posted that or whatever. Like we can't always be the smartest, best winner all the time. And it's funny because I think people appreciate the authenticity. People don't like when I am trying to slow people's rolls as far as chasing this get rich quick stuff. But, you know, social media is what we decide it is. You know, we don't have to make it our highlight reel. You know, because I was talking about I couldn't sleep last night and thinking about all this negativity. Like I'm telling you, I was up all night just thinking negative things about everything possible. No one talks about that, you know, and I'm sure that happens to everybody where you know you can't sleep and your mind's racing and you're just like negative. You know what I mean? That happens to other people. And I think like with this mental health stuff is like people feel alone when everyone's going through things. But we don't feel like everyone's going through things because we're like only showing the highlight reel.
Exactly. Stuff. You know, it shows that you're human.
Exactly. And I think, you know, the human experience is kind of like, not to get super philosophical, but I do believe this idea that like the human experience, the default is like pain and suffering, you know, because you're gonna die one day, you're gonna lose your parents, you're gonna lose your dogs, like more bad things happen than good things, in a way. So like we have to, you know, if you can kind of accept that, and then that will help you appreciate when good things happen, you know, like that's like something that I've been kind of thinking about, you know, and kind of embracing the whole experience, you know, because if you feel like it's kind of the default, then you can like withstand the things that happen, you know, because we all have tragedy and problems that happen,
Yeah.
So
listen, man, I can tell you firsthand, like that. Excuse me, that happened to me. Like last year, like I got to a point last year that I was overwhelmed and I was overworked, and not because I was not, good at what I did, not because I didn't have the tools. I just had so much on my plate. And again, when you put that perception of of you being a superhero out there, people expect that from you all the time,
and you could see it in them seeing it in you. So now you're like, I struggle with that a lot because now I got fancy stuff, so people are looking at me, and I could see them, and then I feel actually in like an inferiority thing, like, can I even live up to this thing that they think, and then that's why I try to post negative things or things that I didn't do good, because it helps me balance back to myself. And yeah, I did notice I haven't heard from you, seen from you lately.
I had to like take a whole like back seat to like really just kind of revamp. Like I don't want to say I got too big for my britches, but I had more on my plate that I could handle. And I had other loan officers reaching out to me, yo, dude, do you do mentorship? Dude? I'm like, listen, man, I'm not the one to mentor you right now. I said, I can show you how I do what I do. I said, but you don't want to follow this to the T. I can show you the good things. I said, but there's a lot of bad that you can fall into. I said, so you gotta. I'm like, I'll help you out. I'm like, but I'm not gonna, say I'm gonna be a mentor to you. I'm not there yet.
That's part of the self-employed thing too, like, because I was like, how do you take a vacation? Like, because if you stop, you're see, but that's how that happens to you. Like, it's hard to shut off. Like, my phone's always on, it's buzzing. You got to be responsive, and it's just like, and with the market, I stopped working with buyers the whole time because I was feeling.
I remember that, yeah.
Yeah, I'm just like, I just now started working with buyers again, but I'm doing one at a time because I just can't. Because I'm internalizing when I keep telling them they're not getting their offer, I feel bad. I'm feeling negative because I'm seeing them look at me, and then it's just like, I don't know. It's a weight.
It is,
over time.
I had 4 loans all of last year. Like, I mean, I did a ton of business last year. I'm grateful for it. I had 4 loans last year that I could not complete. And I have all 4 of them posted up in my office because I don't want to ever have that weight on me ever again. Because again, you have something that you always confide in yourself of, a way that you want to maintain, the way that people see you, and the way that you're actually, again, your authenticity and everything, like kind of what you're saying there. And when you feel like you've become below that, again, you just have to fight back to get to that position. That's the initial feeling of yourself, but again, having that experience of, hey, I am human, these things happen, and these things, these things may be, out of my control or something like that.
Well, that's the thing, is you can't control all everything. The factors.
You can't. You can't.
And I think like high performers or people who take a lot of responsibility, you take ownership of things that you cannot control. And it's like a gift and a curse. It's good because it helps you be responsible and like do your best all the time. But I find it's how you speak to yourself that's very important when those things happen. Because I could tell you, I'm my biggest critic, but I've really changed my self-talk in those moments when I don't live up to what my own expectation of myself, where it's okay. Like it's a really tough balance, right? Because it's okay, but do better.
Yeah.
But how do you tell yourself that nicely?
Right.
Without being like, you suck. Well, because it's real easy to like, I'm just like that, right? Like I'm kind of brutally honest most of the time, but even more in my own head. But I got to be like, all right, this messed up. Here's what to do better. It's okay. Things but I also don't want to overly excuse stuff. You got to hold yourself accountable at the same time. Life is hard, man. You got to balance. Like
I was just about to say, it's balance because I feel the same way.
Everything is balanced, but it's hard to balance.
It is. I mean, and again, it's like you don't stop working or anything like that.
Right.
You kind of work with a chip on your shoulder at that point because you know that there is a corrective behavior that you have to adhere to.
But I think part of the problem is there's a short-term benefit of not being balanced. Because I just saw this article that said 20% of Fortune 500 CEOs qualify as psychopaths or something, right? But you have to be a psychopath to be the best at something. Like Michael Jordan is a psychopath at playing basketball in competition.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and that's like, do you really want to pay the cost to be the best?
Exactly.
And I'm like, I don't know, because in my mind I used to think so, but I'm like, I want to be comfortable. I want to be able to go on trips. I want to have a pool party.
I want to have a pool party.
I'm still waiting on this pool party from when you close, man.
Well, you see the backyard. I'm working on it. Like, do I want to be on the phone all day? Do I want to bring my laptop on my vacation? Like, do I really want to do that? So if I don't, I'm going to have to accept some things about that.
Mm-hmm.
But that's also why real estate investing is the best, because you don't have to spend a lot of time as if with your rental property, you're getting paid. You can hire a property manager. Oh, that's the problem. Oh, okay, go ahead, fix it. Because one of my properties in Texas, they said they do a quarterly inspection. And they were like, hey, the AC coils are dirty. You want us to clean it? $400. Yes, please proceed. That's it.
Done deal.
3 words.
No more thoughts. No energy to that, And so that's why I like real estate, though.
Yeah, really. I mean, again, kind of, to Candace's point, like she was saying, again, you see the glitz and the glamour, you see those types of things, and again, you really just people want that, and that's why they get into real estate. Again, me myself, kind of, we talked about this before. I got into it, kind of the same reason why Candace got into it. I saw my people and my friends around me were just struggling in this space, and I'm like, why? What's going on here? Why are we here? And it was like, all right, and it was kind of just almost a fate thing. Somebody had sent me the course to become a loan officer, and I'm like, let me see what's let me look into this. I delved out, should I become an agent, real estate agent or a loan officer? And I went the other way. But again, becoming, getting into this space, becoming, a loan officer or a real estate agent, if you are in it, to make money, in the next 20 days, it's not happening for you. Again, it's a marathon, not a sprint. And again, you really have to work at it, and, some people, again, like you said, get into it for the, that cash and that freedom and that flexibility. And that is the joyous part of real estate. That's
the part that looks good.
That looks good, So,
they don't know the problem. But, it's funny. We all share this idea that we need, what it is? Because, Candace, you said something about you didn't know, like, the technical side at first. But where my mind went to was, but you understand the culture and how to communicate with your people.
Yes.
And that is what we're missing. Well, I mean, it's a lot better now, so it's not so bad. But that's really important, because people can call you and ask you a question and feel comfortable. And that's, like, very valuable. Just like, because I think Aaron over here, he's working, he passed law school. And he's about to take the bar exam in the summer. And it's like, who in your family is a lawyer or knows about the law? Who can you call? And I think within the community, it's really important to have those people around so that you can learn from, ask questions, have role models in a way, so that these things are possible. So that's kind of what I was thinking about. My other thing that I was thinking is, were you concerned with the COVID market when they closed everything down, like, for your income? Were you, like, nervous at all? Like, oh man,
a little bit, because the work that my husband does, he like does events and stuff like
so
so all of that came to a halt for like months.
Ugh.
On top of that, in March of 2020, when COVID hit, I had my son the same week.
Man.
They shut the hospital down and everything the day I had my son. So everything hit at one time. And my job that I had just left, because in my mind, I'm like, you know what, maternity leave and then full-time real estate. That was the plan. But my manager called me and she's like, I really don't want you to leave. Do you want to just work from home part-time? You can still do your thing, you know, on the side, or be home with the baby, whatever you decide to do. But if you want, come and get a laptop and work whenever you can.
Nice.
I was like, Now, everybody wasn't that fortunate. So I am, you know, very grateful for that. But I was able to do what I have to do. You know what I'm saying? Log off the computer, go show a house, or log off the computer and go put my son down. You know, there was a flexibility there. So for a lot of people, COVID was, you know, a scary shift. And for me, COVID was a huge shift because it was, you know, the job switch, the whole motherhood thing and all of that all at one time. But looking back, I'm like, the way everything happened, I felt like it happened the way it was supposed to.
Very cool.
That's awesome.
Well, that's all I got. Do you guys have any last words? Want to plug something? Any of that fun stuff?
Not I, said the dog.
If you want to buy a house,
there you go.
You need to shift your expectations a little bit.
That's where we started
sure you're
this.
A little realistic.
That's where we started this.
That's funny.
Yeah,
No,
you know.
I'm kidding.
But yeah, keep an open mind to your realtors, guys. I mean, if you're watching this and you're listening to this, you know, keep an open mind to your realtors. Listen to what they're saying. They're not trying to lead you in a bad direction. This market is hard to navigate. It is hard to do if you don't have that open mind and you're not willing to listen. You're not willing to flex your expectations, or, you know, re-navigate your next 5 years of where you expect to be. So just have that, you know, open mindset when you're talking to your and listening to your realtors. Save, you know, as much money as you guys can, you know, and work on your credit. Make sure you pay your bills on time, you know, because all those things are going to play a factor into how you're going to be able to purchase and when you're going to be able to purchase. And don't wait to buy, because it's going to be more expensive towards the end of the year, because rates are going up, as we stated in the beginning of the podcast.
And same thing with loan officers. They are not in your business for no reason at all. So send them what they ask for when they ask for it, because I can guarantee you, just as much as you don't want to send it, they don't want to sit and review it. So they are not asking for anything unless they absolutely need it.
Preach.
I've been there. All pages of all bank statements. And yep, I've been there, done that. Don't want to do it again.
Why you need the last page is blank? I don't know. It's blank.
It needs to say 6 of 6. I don't know.
All right, guys. Well, Ryan Got the Bread podcast. Candace Dennis, Andrew Thompson,
Ryan.Fagan.
I'm like, I call you Drew, so I was like, let's say Andrew. But anyway, signing off, guys. Thank you for listening. See you.
Thank you.
Hey, that was fun.
It was.
Very organic.